We're studying Isaiah chapter 6, and last time we discovered that holiness in humans requires moral excellence in heart and action. But how can we achieve that? Sin separates us from God. It breaks the connection of holiness. It drives us from God's presence, just like what happened to Adam and Eve in the garden. But now let's look at what happened to Isaiah next in Isaiah 6:6. Then one of the seraphim flew to me with a live coal in his hand, which he had taken with tongs from the altar. And with it he touched my mouth and said, "See, this has touched your lips. Your guilt is taken away and your sin is atoned for." What does it take to be connected to and used by God, to be in a covenant relationship with a God of overwhelming holiness? Removal of sin. Moral excellence of both heart and action. My favorite comic strip is Calvin and Hobbes, drawn by Bill Watterson. And in one comic strip, Calvin is talking with Hobbes about Santa and what Santa expects of him as he waits for Christmas. And Calvin says, "Well, do I just have to act good, or do I actually have to be good in my heart and soul?" And Hobbes rolls his eyes and responds, "In your case, I suppose Santa will just have to take what he can get." Santa might, but God does not. It isn't just actions of sin that hinders the holiness connections, it's the state of sin, the essence of sin, the being of it. Note that Isaiah didn't just say, "I have said unclean things," but "I have unclean lips." Uncleanness of action comes from uncleanness of being. And Jesus picks up on this idea in Luke 6:45 and says that out of the abundance of the heart, the mouth speaks. In other words, sin in the being comes out in the actions and the words. And it's not just Jesus either. In Psalm 24, verses 3 and 4, David says, "Who shall ascend up into the hill of the Lord? The one who has clean hands and a pure heart." James tells us, "Wash your hands, you sinners, and purify your hearts, you double-minded," in James 4:8. So to be rightly connected to God isn't just do right, it's also be right. It's not just do holy things, but it is be holy. What God calls you to is not do better, it's be holy. And the only way we can achieve doing right things is by letting God touch our lips, our hearts, our bodies with His purifying fire. Because only that can create in us His holiness, so that out of our mouth flow the beautiful things that come with